Hello, welcome to Taking It Off Topic. I'm your host, Amanda Rankin, and I'm here with my fabulous guest, Terikka. And we're going to be talking about purpose today. So, Terikka, please take a moment, introduce yourself, and then we'll dive in.
All right, thank you for having me. My name is Terikka Faciane, and I am what's called a messenger midwife. I want to help women in that second season of life clarify who they are, name what they carry, and helping these messengers reach the tribe that God has called them to reach. So I'm really excited to be here talking about purpose because that is everything.
It is. And I have the pleasure of knowing you personally and the benefit of just tapping into you, like as a resource. Like, help me. I'm confused. I'm a little, and you have been a guiding light. You have been such a support to me, and I really, really appreciate you. So I hope that those listening can just feel that as well, learn something new about themselves, learn something about purpose, demystify some things around purpose. Oftentimes, when we think of purpose, it just seems so big. Like, oh Lord, I don't
Right.
know what this is. And so I
Hmm.
hope this conversation kind of just sheds a little light on it and gives people like, okay, I see. You know what I mean? Like I can tap into that. I see what this is about. So that's the goal.
Awesome.
How would you define walking in your purpose?
That is so key because I think so many times we are mystified and we need to demystify it. So,
Mm-hmm.
walking in our purpose is just walking in alignment with the seed of who God has called us to be. I don't think anyone looks at an apple seed and says, oh, I wonder how many different purposes it has in that sense. You know what I mean? So, when you
Yeah.
realize that God has already implanted the seed of who you are, you've already been pre-packed, it's really more an issue of discovery than manufacturing. And that's what I really want to get across today is that we are not like we're in a grocery store just trying to select, oh, who am I going to be today? Like, what is this thing? No, like it's already been seeded into you. And it really is our discovery, not something that we manufacture.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's the hard part, right? Is that discovery and kind of tapping into where is the seed or what is it? You know what I
Hmm.
mean? What's a common misconception about purpose?
Yeah, I think just what I intimated that it can be manufactured or figured out as if it wasn't already there. I think sometimes, we can look at something and we can begin to see, even when we have children, we can say, oh, that's a talker, that's a curtain climber. You already see that they are movers and shakers and active and they need this environment versus that environment. So when you really begin to look at the seed of who you are, you already have some telltale signs about where you thrive, where you come alive, what is life giving to you. And I think sometimes we don't really pay attention to that because that hasn't always been championed. So
Mm,
when you were little, when you were organizing all your dolls or your books and you just had this incessant desire to read, it's like those were all clues. And I think sometimes we don't allow clues to be as as relevant as they need to be. There's a reason that you perk up in this situation and you're drained in another. I think we have to begin to heed the clues because I think he does not want it to remain a mystery. Who creates something and then says, "Oh, I want this to be so elusive. Like I don't want them to really find out until they're 60." Like no, like that
right.
is that is totally the opposite of what a father is. A father wants you to have identity. They want you to have direction. And so I think the clues are there. It's just our sensitivity to them that needs to be sharpened. And conversations like this are one of those ways to do that.
So heeding to the seed of who you are is more like being receptive to the things that already come natural to you.
I would say
Or
that is so many times when people think about faith, it's like, God is going to have me do something that I hate. Like he's going to send me to some third world country to fight off mosquitoes. Like if you don't already have a natural bent for travel and adventure and like, I want to, take over the jungle in that way, like that's not going to be probably what he's calling you to do. And
mm,
so I think that it shows early on. We already see the signs. And I just believe that when we begin to start walking through life, we start inheriting purposes, from parents, from teachers. They see things and it's like, oh, you look like you could be a pianist, and it's like next thing you know, you're in piano classes for the next 6 years and it's miserable to you. You may have a skill for something, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the direction that he has for you to go. And I just think that it really is a matter of honoring what we're seeing and not trying to make it something other than.
so now you got me. I have all these other questions. So
Feel free.
a skill may not necessarily be what your purpose is, right? A skill could just be something that comes natural to you, but it's not necessarily your purpose or something that I feel like a purpose kind of gives you energy, like it recharges you in a way. Like when you're doing it, you don't feel drained. You almost feel the opposite.
So when we're talking about purpose, it's like it's the reason that he brought you into the earth. David said, I serve the Lord in my own generation. So it's like, what is it that I need to become fully who God is called me to be. And whatever we don't understand, we can never take ownership of.
Mhm.
So then we're going to keep kind of flittering about trying on this thing. And I mean, it was fine as a child to be like, oh, this week I'm going to be a firefighter. Next week I'm going to be a lawyer. Like all of those things were allowing us to do a little bit of cosplay, so to speak. So we can try on because he said, I would never put anything ill fitting on you. But there's some things because we're maybe have, like you said, skills that we're good at. It's like, oh, then I will deploy this over here and work in this environment for 50 years. And it's like, and like you said, it's draining to you. I don't know that we realize that frustration is really a gift because when you're frustrated, something is telling you this is not fully it. But we will press through and we will give it the name like I persevere. I have tenacity. It's like, well, maybe it was not meant for you to persevere through being someone ultimately that you're not. That is something that we have to adhere to because I think that, he says all creation is groaning for the revealing of the sons and daughter of glory because we know that it's supposed to be more.
Yeah,
We're groaning because we know that there's supposed to be more. So we have to pay attention to the groan.
that's good. So, is there a difference between purpose and gifts?
Absolutely. So again, the purpose is your why. The gifts are the how. So when
Mhm.
you've been given gifts, that's divine enablement to go and do and be what you've been called to do and be. And so your gifts should definitely point you to your purpose, but they're not your purpose. They're meant to be shared and given and stewarded and but it's not your purpose. Your purpose is your why you were born. Your
Okay.
gifts are how you will live into that purpose.
So they're more as supporting roles of your purpose, your gifts. It's like I have a gift for administration, but I feel like doing this podcast is more my purpose, right? This is more of like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I say it in another episode how I used to always worry about when I stand before God. He says, "What did you do with the gift that I gave you?" Right?
Yes.
And for me, that meant more than just what did Amanda as an individual do in her little, oh,
Right.
I did this, I accomplished this, blah blah blah. It meant
Mm.
like to me, it means what did I leave for the body? Right?
So
What's
let me
that?
ask you this.
Uh-huh.
Your administration gift, have you had to use it during this podcast?
I have, yes. Now that you
So
said, I don't even think about it, right?
yeah, because it's as easy and it becomes as natural as breathing to you. And so that's the thing. The gifts are without repentance. What we do with them, they can be deployed working over here, being a PTA mom, it's going to show up no matter what because the gifts are given without repentance. But here's the thing. It's it's not just what the gift is, it's where it shows up. So that's why I think we kind of do ourselves a disservice when we just label the gifts, the spiritual gifts, divine enablement. It's how do they show up? And where do they show up? That's why you can have someone who has the gift of hospitality and you're like, hey, that doesn't look hospitable at all. But what we don't realize is that when that person gets with, teenage moms, all of a sudden they start deploying every resource because that is their passion, purpose area. So your admin gift, he's not going to turn it off like just because, oh, you're in this setting or that setting. It's going to show up because it is a part of who you are. But when we start talking about purpose, it's where was that gift really designed to show up?
That's
So
good.
I have the gift of teaching, but when I was teaching humanities to young people labeled at risk, that was a whole different expression than what we're doing right here today because I know that my purpose is to help people clarify who they are and why they are. So I animate around this topic.
Yeah.
So where do you animate? That's another area where you can say purpose clue.
That is good. Yeah. You just,
Hmm.
yeah, that's true. You get excited that you light up. It's like, yeah. It's funny because like when we all get together, that energy flow, you can just, it's magnetic, right?
Exactly.
When someone is feeling unsure about their purpose, where do they go?
Again, I think you have to start with discovery. You have to take inventory. So again, we may not always know the end result of purpose, so to speak,
Hmm.
but like you were saying, administration comes naturally to you. For some people, speaking comes naturally. So what patterns keep showing up across your life? When someone looked at you even in elementary, it's like, Amanda was always getting people together, just getting the line straight, like, always, so it's taking inventory. How are you wired? What do you value? What are those spiritual gifts and where do they show up? And so, what I tell people all the time, you may not know the end goal, but you can become a student of you. If I'm sitting there and I'm staring at, if I just visited, Earth for the first time and someone is saying, like, okay, like, I don't know what it is, but, it's this little four-leg creature thing and it kind of goes meow and it does this and that. Just based on their description, I know, oh, you must be talking about some sort of cat. So as we begin to look at the clues of who you are, that's going to be a telltale sign. And you have to become a student of you. How am I wired? Where are my strengths? What lights me up? If I were stuck in a library all day and I can only study one topic, what would that be? If I were a superhero, who would I be coming to save? Because the thing is, our purpose is always going to have a people on the other side of it. It is never just for us.
That's good.
So again, and people say things like, oh, like I would come to save moms. Which moms? Single moms? Moms in third world countries? Moms in the inner city? Because the thing is, God understood that we could only handle so much. So he literally parceled out a part of his heart and says, I need you to go and love and steward in this area. And that's why you can't shake it. So ask yourself, what is it I cannot not do? What can I shake? What is haunting me? And when you really begin to look at some of those things, when you watch movies, the next thing you know, it's like every time I get to this part, I just start crying. One of our other friends, watching Lion King, it's like, oh, I know I'm Rafiki. I'm just gonna hit you upside the head and say, remember who you are. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. And so that's where it's like, again, he doesn't want it to remain a mystery. If I sent you into the earth at this time, I want you to be clear about who you are and who you're called to serve. And so that's where, I have, what's called the I am work. Let's get clear about your personality. Let's get clear about what you value, your environmental needs. Because some people, they need to travel and they're just like, oh, that doesn't seem fair. Like everybody can't just travel. But no, like there's a reason he wants you to love travel and be international. Pay attention to that. So have you gone through the values exercise? Not just what I value, but what does it look like when I'm living into that value?
That's good.
You have to get a PhD in you. And
That's
my
good.
acronym for that is your purpose, hope, and destiny. Like you have to study this thing.
That's good. I think oftentimes I know I'm guilty of it, especially when I was younger. You just kind of just go through the world. Like you just go through life kind of doing what other people say that is your talent or what other people may have expected of you. It becomes like a second skin, right? Like you don't
That's good.
even know that you're walking in this because it becomes so natural that you're got this on. It's like that ain't even yours to carry. Like take that off. That's not you. And
Hmm.
so I think being a PhD in you is important. Like really knowing what
Absolutely.
motivates me, what drives me, what because what motivates me may not motivate you, but when we're together, I'm gonna help, right? And so it feels
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
maybe it is a motivation of mine, but it's like, no, that's not yours. You were just helping.
And that's most of our lives, right? Is like you said, I love that, that second skin.
Hmm.
Because the thing is, when we talk about even when we talk about the word education, it means to educe, to draw out. Like God is trying to draw us out. There's nothing else that needs to be added to us. You know what I mean? He's like everything that you need. I've already pre-packed it, but it's the seed. And I know that's going to be a question that we kind of come up with, but it's like if I'm trying to take care of a cactus, that's going to look a lot different from me taking care of another kind of plant. A
Hmm.
cactus is going to be like, why are we doing all this? I don't need all that. I hold water for forever, forever.
Yeah, I
But
don't require all that.
I don't require all that. But
Yeah,
that's the challenge. When you have children, you say things like, oh, I love my children equally. But the key becomes, can you love your children uniquely?
ooh, that's good.
Can you
Yes.
love them uniquely? Because I have one child that may be an artist and all she needs is Procreate and an Apple Pen and to do her digital art. But I'm like, no, because the other kid got a horse. I'm gonna get this kid a horse, and it's just like she don't like being outside. She doesn't like, you know what I mean? So it's we do ourselves a disservice when we think that we have to do all the things. It's like when you are able to see me for who I am, you're like, oh, okay, this kid needs like a recipe book. They need this, they need that, or whatever. They don't need the same things for Christmas per se, because that's not what's going to be life giving to them. That's not
Hmm.
going to water their purpose. So I
Yeah.
think clarity is the greatest gift that we can have.
Yeah, I think as you get older, like when you talk about, we have all we need. Nothing else has to be added. And I tell my son that all the time, like everything that you need, God's already placed in you.
Hmm.
All you got to do is just trust and believe and walk it out, right? But as you become an adult, you have all these doubts, right? And all these
Hmm.
other pressures that come on, which leads me to my question of how do you think limited beliefs play a role in our ability to step into our purpose?
I think you've already kind of laid the groundwork for this. As we come up through life and parents and relationships, we inherit all of these identities. You may have a teacher who's like, oh, Amanda's just so smart. And, and it's just like you realize, huh, every time I do this, I get praise for that. So let me do more of that. And in actuality, like you could have cared less about that biography report or, this education path. And so I think it's when the seed again is misidentified. People will do good things. It's like, okay, I'm an apple seed, but it's like you're taking care of me like I am an orange seed. And I kind of drive this metaphor into the ground because I think no one really argues with the fact that an apple seed is going to be an apple tree. Now it could be Gala apples, Washington apples. There's all kind of variation within the apple family, but I don't need what you're giving these avocado people or these orange seed people. And so I think that the limiting beliefs is the seed is misidentified, so it's getting the wrong care, and then we're wondering why we're getting some very strange fruit, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
whatever we don't understand, again, we undernourish, we mishandle, we get in the wrong environment, and then we wonder why we're not thriving. And so I think again that frustration is a gift, and when things are not working, instead of just man, like I'm just a failure, no, like treat failure as feedback. If I'm not thriving here, then is there another invitation that I need to be exploring?
Mm-hmm.
Because if everything worked where we were and we're misaligned, we're gonna think that we should stay there because it's technically working.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the limiting beliefs is did we ever really have the right beliefs?
That's good.
So we're almost getting like that renewing of the mind. So many times we blame things on like just on the enemy, so to speak. And God is like, no, like the biggest thing is I need you to tear down every thought that exalts itself against the knowledge of me. So when I say who you are, when I tell you that I knew you before you were in your mother's womb and that I knit you together, you have to come back to the source. Not parents, not teachers, even though they absolutely meant well. We mean well. But the only agenda and purpose that matters is the one that we were assigned by him. And we have to have those conversations with the creator. And he's saying, look, I will give you the desires of your heart. So pay attention to where you come alive.
So let's talk. What if you are in an environment, it's everything seems to be working? What's the sign of like, nah, this is working, but this is still not where you're supposed to be? I think like for me, it's just that sense of just angst, right? Like it's just like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's working, but it's out. You can, when you're doing something out of your own will, it's just like a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of heavy
Right.
lifting, but it's like, yeah, there's fruit coming, and it's doing what it needs
Mm-hmm.
to do, but it just doesn't feel like it's doing it smoothly. I guess I can't really think of the how I want to put it together.
I think you already put your finger on it. You said, "Hey, it feels like I'm almost like taking a bath with my clothes on." Like, I mean, it's working, but there's still this little. When you have that like that dull ache,
Mhm.
that angst, that like again, your purpose, if it really is, it keeps you up at night and it gets you up in the morning. If you have to sigh and have 18 cups of coffee and like put on your motivational like tape just to kind of get through your day, then you have to begin asking yourself questions like, is this it? Because the thing is, Ishmaels are a thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you got your first son, but it really was supposed to be Isaac. And so I think we know when things are not, when they're just kind of on autopilot, they're just kind of trucking along, but it's not the thing that enlivens us.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think we have to not push that down and just say, you know what, I just need to be thankful. I just need to have gratitude. I mean, the bills are paid, things are, I mean, it's not as horrible as things that are happening in other places. And God is like, I'm pushing that. I'm tugging on that. But again, he will not force us to pivot and to truly wake up. He would just allow that sense of dullness and numbness around just doing our day-to-day routine.
Mhm. That's good. I've definitely been there where it's just like, something
Mm-hmm.
is pulling me, but comfort and stability will keep you settled, right? It'll allow you to settle
Yeah.
for things and not grow and push yourself beyond that point.
Mm-hmm.
These last couple years for me has been like, Lord, just blow my mind. Just blow my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything that I'm thinking of, I know you can do 20 times more than
Right.
that. So just blow
Mm-hmm.
my mind and just being open to that. But it's work, right? It's constantly having to talk myself like, nope, no can't be your automatic default. You got to
Yeah.
be open to something different. You got to be willing to move a little bit differently. It's hard though. Change is hard. Obedience is hard, though we would
Mm-hmm.
like to think that it's easy. In this season of parenting, it's funny, like I'll tell Isaac to do something, and then I'll just be like, okay, Lord. I get it.
Like you see the mirror.
Right. Like, okay. He's like, you telling him, but that's exactly what I've been telling you. And I'm just like, okay, get it. Heard.
He
Okay.
will do it. But the beautiful thing is you are once you said yes, you invited the stretch. And so once you said yes, like you said, the podcast began happening, you showing up in these other spaces. And so I love that he's not saying, I need you to get this and you need to get it yesterday. It's like, no, like you said, it can be scary. It does require stretching. It's not for the faint of heart. So it's almost like he has to get our spiritual cardio up so that we can handle what's coming. It's one
Mhm.
thing when you're just stewarding your own yes, but what begins to happen now as God begins to grow your tribe, and now you begin to steward other women who are saying, "Oh gosh, what's happening here? I don't know." You know what I mean? So now it's not just about you. Now your story becomes the uh, the watering well for those who are coming after you, and that's what he's. I appreciate like just how gracious he is to say, "I know that you're on the path to becoming, but I do need you to heed the clues. There is more, and just give me one micro yes each time, and that micro yes will turn into the fruit that you're seeing now."
Yeah, that's true. And for me, it had to come with some breaking, right?
Hmm.
In order for there to be change, a lot of things in me had to be broken. And I
Mm,
was like to the point where physically broken, emotionally broken,
yeah.
physically broken. And then I'm just like, okay, Lord, you have my undivided attention. But he
Hmm.
had to do that because that's my personality, right? I'm gonna get in the
Yeah.
way. I'm gonna move and be like, oh, and he'd be like, nah, that's not what I told you to do. And
Right.
so I had to be broken, basically the lowest I had ever been in order for me to start rebuilding.
He knows
Yeah,
his kids,
he knows his
and
kid.
some kids, all he has to do is just give the look. Other kids, it's like, okay, we got to do all kind of special
I'm
gymnastics,
definitely
but
the kids you gonna have to whoop. I used to
uh-huh.
get a whooping all every day like a vitamin when I was a little girl. So he knew
Uh-huh.
like this one here, we got to break her a little bit more. So, but now I listen most times.
That's good.
Does purpose change over time?
So I don't believe that purpose changes as much as it matures.
Oh, okay. That's good.
So the seed doesn't become something else, but it grows in stages.
Okay.
So you don't go to a seed like, where are my apples? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm hungry now. It's like, no, this has to mature over time. So even as your season shifts, your assignments may expand, but the purpose, you being an encourager or an administrator of purpose, like those things are set.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that it matures over time. And so it has to be revisited. It has to grow. When you look at Peter being a firehead, like he was on fire for Jesus, but even as he got older, there was a more calmer pose, but he was still just as radical, but in a more quiet way,
Mm-hmm. That's good. I
you
love
know?
that. Yeah. And I think about that like I'm in this season of, maybe I'm open to meeting somebody, but I'm like, the woman I was in my 20s and 30s is not the woman I am in my 50s, right?
Hmm.
And so, had I met whomever God is sending to me back then, I probably wouldn't have appreciated them.
Right.
And so, there is a level of maturity that has to happen. And so,
Hmm.
I can see that with my purpose as well. Like, there's a level of maturity that's going to happen over time. So, that's really, really good. I like
And
that.
shaping. He's mindful of you. He said, I won't put anything ill fitting on you. So again, as you're working out your process, why would I send 20
Hmm.
people who need everything from you and I haven't even given you a chance to name what you carry, to breathe, to become. And so again, he is so mindful of us. And again, your purpose has been there all along. Like how we name it and how we grow into it, that's another process.
That's good. I love that. So, what are some ways to nurture or grow into our purpose?
Check your environment, check your
Mm,
relationships, because
expand,
again,
expand. What's that even? What? What?
listen, so many times we know that there's more, but they say this all the time. You're going to be like the five people that you hang around. You know what I mean? And so even as we've been on this journey with Women of Grace, you notice that everybody started popcorning at the same time, launching things and doing things and showing up in places because we're calling out the gold in one another. And so if you're going to nurture it, you need to be in an environment that your seed can absolutely grow in. Again, if I'm a cactus, I don't need the same thing as, say, a rose bush. So we have to create spaces where growth is the byproduct. And so as we are part of Women of Grace, as people are listening to this podcast, that is all feeding their faith, because faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. So if you're going to nurture it, again, you need to become a student of you. Pay attention to what bears fruit naturally. Again, you can go and do admin at at a series of corporate banks, it'll work, but is that going to be life giving to you? So you have the gift, but is it planted in the right place?
That's
They're
good.
going to get the benefit of it. Their corporation and banks are going to grow because God is going to bless what your hands touch. You know what I mean? But is that where you're really meant to thrive? So we have to be in areas and places that support our design. And we
Mm,
know when we get in this atmosphere and we feel like we're thriving, but when we go visit over here or spend too many hours over there, we have to come home, take a nap, regroup, pray, get whatever that thing is off of us because that environment was really draining to us.
hmm
I think if we would be honest, we would know what's life-giving to us and what is not. And
Yeah.
sometimes in the name of family and childhood friendships, we keep things going way longer than they need to, and that drain becomes yeah, a drain on our life force.
Yeah.
And we have some agency there if we would take ownership.
That's good. Think about it like me over the last 3 years and how much I've grown and changed. And there's friendships that I've had, out of college that have kind of, changed and kind of petered out. But I'm like,
Hmm.
I'm not the same woman,
Correct.
right? Like they wouldn't even recognize the conversations and the goals and the ideas that I'm moving toward now versus then. And I think sometimes, a lot of times, we do hold on to things a lot longer than their
Hmm.
expiration date. And it does block us from what's supposed to be coming our way in this new season, or you know what I mean? And so that's
Hmm.
really, really good. That's
That
really good.
forward motion, like you said earlier, that comfort and that familiarity, it'll get us every time. Because again, I'm familiar with this. I mean, I'm aware of what this is at least.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the big unknown, that's scary. I don't know what that entails and what that requires. And so, but I think he's kind of like the he's kind of like the eagle who's making the nest so uncomfortable that the eaglet has to fly. And I think that's just the time that we're in because he's vested in our purpose coming to pass because there's a people that are attached to it. And so staying in our comfort zone is not going to work. So those birthing pangs are true and they're here.
Yeah, that's really true. What word of encouragement would you give someone beginning to step into their purpose?
You don't have to manufacture anything. I think sometimes we get on these social media streets and we're like, oh, so and so is doing this. I should probably start a TV show. And it's like, that's not what he's asked you to do. He's asked you to be an author because you have such a power through the written word. And that book or that blog is going to live well beyond you. So just understanding that we don't have to beat ourselves up. Whenever we come to ourselves, whenever that awakening happens, he knew it was coming. And he said, Romans 8:28, he's working all things for the good to those who love him and are called according to his purpose. So whenever your epiphany wake up moment happens, like just know that he can redeem the time and definitely be encouraged in that. So God hasn't forgotten anything. He knew what your detours would be. He knew what the missteps would be. And he says, I calculated all of that and I'm still working it for the good. And just this is so key. God does not require of you anything that he has not already placed within you.
Mm,
He's only going to come for what he's already deposited. So don't fear. God's going to make me do this. He's going to, no, like if he's already placed it in you, then that's what he's coming for. Who makes a deposit in the bank and then someone says, oh, you can't access this. No, he's deposited things in us and he's saying, I would like to access that. And so, yeah, we don't have to make up anything. It's already there. Let's become a student of it. Get clear about your wiring, get clear about your gifts, get clear about your values, get clear about your environmental needs. So if you know you need to travel, if you know you need to be in nature, like pay attention to all of that. When I'm working with young people and we're talking about their power traits and how are they smart, not if they're smart. And then you have kids who are music smart and word smart, and then it's like I just feel like the Lord really speaks to me through worship. And someone else is like, well, he doesn't really speak to me that way because he knows how he wired each of us. And so the more we become aware, the easier it's going to be to lean in. Everything stays ambiguous and like, just like, I don't really know. I mean, so I realize that I really enjoy, event planning, but, it's kind of like, no, like, what about that? Keep asking, like 7 questions down. Like, what is it about admin that excites you? Why? Answer that one. Why again? You know what I mean? Until we get to what's intrinsically driving you, because no one can study you like you can. They may
that's
say from
good.
the outside, like, oh, you're really good at this, but it's like, yeah, I'm really good at that because, Again, I was praised as a child, so I keep doing it. You know what I mean? But I don't really want to. We need to have those courageous conversations around what really lights us up and what drains us for sure.
That's really good. And I think we have to also give ourselves some grace, right? Like I was
Absolutely.
definitely a person who thought time had been wasted. Like I had wasted so much
Mm,
time. Because the older you get, the more time becomes more relevant, right? Like you're like, oh wait,
right.
we really don't have a lot of time here.
Hmm.
And so just having that grace of like, nah, nothing is wasted. And really like that, I go back to that and anchor on that a lot. Like, nope, nothing is wasted. No time
Nothing.
has been wasted.
And the
Yeah.
the skills and the gifts that you have, you're not starting.
Mm,
You're continuing. I mean, that's a snowball effect. You carry all of those years of experience, wisdom. Oh, shouldn't do that. Oh, that might be good to do again. And so now it's like the compound effect. When you do say yes, God can really begin to accelerate some things because it's not like you were devoid of knowledge and wisdom and things like that. Now he just needed your yes.
I mean, it sounds so easy. He just needed your yes.
But I mean, but look what happened. I mean, I saw when you were just kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna focus on getting started. I'm gonna do like one podcast or two a month or whatever. And now it's just the way you reached out and the way you even started this conversation, it's like you're commanding the space
Yes. I
as a
mean,
gracious host. This is not always easy because you get to going here and it's you have to steward the space, but you also have to bring your guest along. You know what I mean? This is
hmm
not this
hmm
can get very awkward. But I'm
yeah.
saying you're doing the thing. And it
I
started with a
am.
yes.
It started with the yes. And
Mm-hmm.
I was saying to someone, I was saying how last year or maybe the year before, my word was obedience, right? And
Mm-hmm.
it was that sense of whenever God put something on my spirit to do, I was supposed to just do it. Because delayed obedience is still disobedience. So I was supposed to
Mm-hmm.
just move. Of course, it was not easy. And we had a couple back and forths along the way.
Mm-hmm.
But what it showed me was when I started to just work that muscle of just moving in whatever he told me to do, you never know what that little seed of that yes will fruit will be later. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
it makes it easier because I was like, God was like, girl, do this podcast. And then once it started rolling, I was just like, oh, it's so much easier than I thought. But I had worked up this whole idea of reasons why I couldn't, or reason why it wouldn't be successful, or
Mm-hmm.
reasons, all these reasons. And he was like, I just need you to move. Just
Yeah.
take the step. And I would encourage anybody, just take time to really know yourself. And that's hard, right? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes we're so used to if if you have a family or whatever the case, you're so used to kind of appeasing and molding to whatever everyone else's needs
Right.
are.
Shape shifting. Mm-hmm.
Right. So to take that time to really evaluate you, it's hard. It sounds easy, but for a lot of us, you don't know who you are because you've been doing all these other things for so long. To my listeners, I will definitely put all her information in the caption so you guys can tap in and really get to know her. But I say it all the time. I'm so fortunate for the circle of women in my life. And you
Mm-hmm.
don't really realize how unique we are to have one another until you see someone who doesn't have it. And you're like, ah,
Correct.
we
Yes.
just, we can get together and it's a thing. We go to Keisha's house and we're there for 5,000 hours because it's a
Right.
vortex and nobody knows how to leave. But it's just it's so beautiful.
It
But a
is.
lot of people don't have that. That's the point of the podcast is to provide a community to those who don't have it, to always link the information of the guests who are willing to be a blessing, right? Everybody's got
Mhm.
these gifts and these talents that they're willing to just pour into
Yes.
other people. And yeah, I'm excited. I always get excited when I have y'all on here just because I'm like, these are my people. These are my regular people.
Yes. I
Tarika's on Substack as well. So yeah,
am.
I'm gonna link everything. So you can find her. She does so many different courses, just unpacking who you are, unpacking your gift, unpacking your tribe. It's a lot. It's a lot of good work, not always easy work, but it's
Hmm.
necessary work, right? Because you don't want to just take off in a direction. And it's like, nah,
Right.
that's not even your direction, man. What are you doing over there?
Hmm.
And what I love about you is you're thoughtful in the courses that you've created. And for me, it has caused me to look at all these different things I've been creating in the background and really organize them and
Hmm.
really get a roadmap of this is where I'm trying to go with this. And so I appreciate you. I thank God
Thank you
for
so much for
you.
having me.
I am so excited to have you. Like I said to my listeners, I will make sure to include everything in the caption so you can find Miss Tarika and just tap in. because this is the year. I think 2026 is going to be amazing. We just have to be willing to say yes and walk into our purpose. I would say boldly, but sometimes it's timid, right? Sometimes those
Just
first couple
walk.
of steps is like a little baby deer with them new legs, but you walk
Hmm.
in. I'm encouraged. I'm excited. And I appreciate you. So thank you so much for
You're
being
welcome.
here.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. And to my listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation and we will see you on the next one.